I did forget to turn on my mic, didn't I? Well, there we go. So I'll be talking for like 2 minutes with no audio. That's what happens when a boomer in spirit, young in the flesh, boomer in the soul. I try to deal with the technology. You try to do one little thing like an intro. You think it would be easy. It's impossible. Okay. So how are we gonna? I didn't prepare this because I was just like, we're ready to go, and then I realized I'm actually not ready to go. So that's fine. We'll learn. It'll improve going forward, I'm sure. But we're talking about the Bloomberg Great Chain of Being, and it starts down all the way at the bottom with people who criticize Nick. And again, I criticize Nick, so in some ways I'm right down at the bottom with everybody else. But you're criticizing Nick. Why? Because Nick is successful, because Nick is popular, because Nick has an audience, because Nick makes $3,000 on a single show in donations, So that's not counting the merch. That's not counting off-show donations, email donations for people who don't want to pay the tithe to DLive or whatever. So people are jealous of Nick because he's very young and he's been very successful thus far. And so they criticize him. But then we can look at Nick himself. What is Nick doing? Why has he been so successful? Because he's criticizing Conservative Inc. So in a way, you have the virgin complainer and the Chad doer, the Chad moneymaker, the Chad whatever, the successful person. So just as people who criticize Nick are kind of like ankle biters, Nick in his own way is an ankle biter. Now, again, this isn't, I'm including myself at the bottom here, so it's not really a criticism in an absolute sense, but we're going to build up all the way to Bloomberg, where Nick criticizes Charlie Kirk. So then Charlie Kirk is the Chad. Charlie Kirk fundraises off of Nick, his opposition to Nick. He fundraises. He gets a lot of money from millionaires, from donors. He's a famous guy. He's friends with the president, hugs the president, shakes the hand of the president, maybe a kiss on the cheek, just something friendly like the Italians do. I don't know what they do behind closed doors, but I'm sure it's all good stuff. So, Charlie Kirk, he's on top of the world. He is the $1 million man of Conservative Inc. And Nick is this guy who just got banned off YouTube. Nick is this guy who has ruined it. He's ruined his prospects of a career, basically. And so he's been forced to be a streamer, and then he's forced off YouTube, and now he's on DLive. Who knows? He'll get kicked off DLive. Will his audience follow him to his new, proprietary platform on his website? How is that going to go? He's going to have to pay $3,000 or something to host the stream on his website rather than using the DLive infrastructure. So we don't know. Just as in 2016, it seemed like some people were important who are now irrelevant in 2020. Nick is relevant today. Maybe he's not going to be so relevant tomorrow. So you look at his relation to Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk's doing very well for himself. And what does Charlie Kirk really represent? He represents this million or even billion-dollar industry of ideology that is influencing our elections. But there's a level above Charlie Kirk, right? Where does he get his money? Charlie is nothing without his money, so he gets it from his donor class. And that's where we get to people like Michael Bloomberg. See, Michael is a donor. Michael is a moneymaker. He's a money giver. And so he controls people like Charlie Kirk. And then you get people who criticize Charlie Kirk, and then you get the people who criticize the people who criticize Charlie Kirk. And we have this great chain of being. Now, if we break it down into a class structure, I pretty much showed a mercantile class structure going from the top to the bottom here in terms of who has the most money versus who has the least money, in a sense. But we could look at other class structures. We could look at a priestly class structure, a warrior class structure. We could say Michael Bloomberg's not the strongest guy in the world. He would never be at the top of a warrior hierarchy. Michael Bloomberg might not be the best with words. He might not be the most charismatic person in the world. So he wouldn't be at the top of a priestly hierarchy, possibly. But he is at the top of this mercantile hierarchy, and people like him. So it's just a neat little example. It's a neat contextualization of what's going on. So we are going to do some devil's advocate. We're going to support Michael Bloomberg in the hopes that he has basically bribed YouTube to promote any videos that promote him. So hopefully, if we support Mike, he'll throw a little bit back to us. Maybe he will, unlike Yang, who promised $1,000 a month, maybe he'll actually bring me on board the campaign. So we'll see. We'll take a look at some of these positions from Politico. So we've got his views on affordable housing, combination of construction funding and rent subsidies. So basically, all of the candidates share those views. I don't really want to read through the whole thing. Just take a look at why is housing so important? Why is rent so expensive? There are empty houses in America right now. Rich people have summer homes, they inherit homes, they have multiple homes. There are plenty of homes which are just empty in America right now. There are homes where old people have died and they're empty and they're just sort of sitting there and the bank is waiting to sell them to a prospective buyer. People buy a new home, then they have an old home and they're selling the old home. So there are plenty of empty houses in America right now. There's plenty of empty hotel rooms. There's plenty of space where if you need a roof over your head, it already exists. So the idea that constructing new houses is at all going to affect rent prices, yes, it may be in some small way, supply and demand and whatever. But I think ultimately the issue is that we have a bunch of property, houses, hotels, whatever. We have housing structures that really people they don't have access to. Why don't they have access? Because it's either not enough money to justify the rigmarole of renting it out to people, or, on the other hand, it's because they don't have the money to afford it, and people are not willing to lower their prices. So I don't think actually building new housing is the way forward. I think we have enough physical structures. So when you talk about affordable housing in relation to construction funding, that's just a subsidy for the construction industry. That doesn't actually help people who need a roof over their head. So what do you do? Well, I mean, there are a couple of different things to look at. For example, I'm not saying you could do anything about this, but one of the big things is college and university, and kids from age 18 to about 26, they move out of the house to go to some kind of educational institute. And that's basically expected. Society says you have to go to these institutes. Now, there is a traditional aspect to that, going off to the academy. There's something to be said for that. It's not entirely useless. But if we are taking this utilitarian approach and trying to figure out how to get people into houses and how to get people off the streets and how to lower the price of rent, then preventing kids from going off to college and keeping them at home for those 4 to 6 or 8 years, however long they're in college, keeping them at home with their families is going to free up a lot of housing, and it's going to reduce demand, and it's going to lower rent prices. So all of the housing that's currently used, college housing, is completely useless if we redirected students toward their local community colleges, if we used more, tele-education, that is, a professor gets on a Skype call and does a lecture. I see the value in physical lectures, so I'm not in favor of abolishing, traveling a distance to go to college. But if you were to take a pure utilitarian perspective and you're just trying to figure out how do we lower rent prices, stopping this college industry, which sends kids off to foreign places, to foreign states within the United States, of course, I'm using that word foreign loosely, but they're going off to different states, living away from their parents. There's no reason they need to be living away from their parents. There's cultural implications there as well. And I say no reason in terms of from a purely utilitarian perspective, but obviously there are other things. What else could we do? We could lower property taxes. If you lower property taxes, rent goes down. So those are some of the things that you could do. Rent subsidies, okay, so you've given the person, here's $200 a month per your rent. So the rent, the renter is just going to raise the rent by $200. It's not very effective. You could go full communist, full Bernie, and just say guaranteed housing. Government's going to pay for your housing. That's basically the healthcare solution. And it's funny to me because not everyone needs healthcare. A lot of people are healthy and they're never really going to use emergency services until they're very old, or some people just go their whole lives and they never really go to the doctor. but everyone needs a house. So if we're talking about universal rights and everyone has a right to health care, actually, I think it's a more fundamental right to housing. If we're going to go full communist, I'd say a fundamental right to housing is actually more reasonable than a fundamental right to health care. After all, housing is a basic need. It's a basic necessity. So you're not being rained on. I mean, it's a basic sort of human dignity of the civilized world, not living out under the stars. I mean, even primitive peoples have huts and tents and caves and whatever. So it is a very basic human right. Whereas healthcare, a lot of the reason people need healthcare is because they've chosen to be fat, or because we promote basically a pharmaceutical industry that crossbreeds with the agricultural industry to make people fat. Either way, most of the healthcare costs in America is due to people being fat, and that doesn't have to be the case, whereas people really do need houses. So in a sense, when I look at the healthcare thing, I'm like, look, if you're old, you don't really need healthcare. You're just afraid of going to hell, basically. So that's not really, I don't think that's a fundamental human right to receive, your fourth triple bypass surgery for your heart or whatever at age 80 after you've had diabetes and eaten all this fast food. I don't view that as a fundamental human right, at least not as much as public housing, which is pretty interesting. The idea of guaranteed housing. Everyone deserves to have some apartment. They deserve to know that there's going to be a roof over their head. We're going to end homelessness. And basically, you're going to find the people who are homeless because they want to be homeless, and it's a sort of a psychological thing. And that's sort of a different problem. That's more of a mental health issue. But there's Bloomberg. We're just going to run through the views, and then we'll sort of compare some of his things to Trump, and we'll take a look at the meta, the quote unquote accelerationism, that whole debate there, and the alternatives thereof, and what we're looking at in terms of the big issues. But we're just going to skim through the rest of these. Income inequality, invest in workers in rural America. What the heck does that mean? So, initiatives to create apprenticeships and assistance programs. Boosting the rural economy through development programs. Rural high-speed broadband. Public investment, $100 billion. National Institutes of Health Department in Defense to innovate. Scaling up federal apprenticeships. So, have you ever heard of someone who's used a federal apprenticeship? That really only applies for like trades, which I don't think the trades are where we're going to see the most growth. Like, the number of plumbers that society needs is going to stay pretty stagnant. The number of electricians that we need is pretty much going to stay the same. There's not going to be a massive boost in, that number of houses just doubled, so we need double the plumbers, double the electricians. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the big job growth is going to come from really top tier skilled jobs, and you can't really do anything about that, which is why I think actually Yang was confronting the reality of it. So we're looking at the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Pretty much everyone agrees. Doubling the minimum wage from $7.25 to $15, allowing it to rise with inflation. Klobuchar, Hickenlooper, and Biden favor this. Hillary favored $12. Okay, and then paid leave. This is Biden. People should be taking paid leave for care for a newborn or sick family member. Okay. That's pretty much a European thing. All these look like ads. It doesn't look like part of the website. Charter schools, support charter schools and accountability. That's very interesting, that Julian Castro and Cory Booker. That's very strange. Because I would expect Bloomberg to do it, because of course you don't want the smart kids going to school with the dumb kids. So you want to have charter schools. You want school choice. So I can understand maybe Yang is a quixotic guy, Klobuchar is sort of, in the middle or whatever, Michael Bennett, but Booker and Castro, very weird to see supporting the charter schools. Opposes for-profit charters. Oh, that's a different thing. Operators to bypass standards, but he will absolutely promote charter schools, so public charter schools rather than private ones. Support charter schools. Let's see. Pro-good schools. Yeah, that's an interesting dog whistle. High quality charter schools. There's really nothing about Bloomberg in here. It's just talking about the other candidates. Okay, he supports a ban on assault weapons. Yeah, he's been pretty strong on the gun control stuff. Background checks, which is part of the gun thing. Universal background checks, which pretty much everyone supports. You're not going to see much variation on that. Although it said something about, do we care about Yang anymore? Do we care about what Yang used to believe? Requiring gun owners to pass. Yeah, it's the same. Everybody's the same on that one. All right, now we got healthcare. Build on ACA. I don't even know what ACA is. Oh, Affordable Care Act, so Obamacare. Build on ACA. Medicare for all. So he's in the Biden, Klobuchar, Yang camp, I guess. So not really that progressive on healthcare. Drug costs, importation and patent breaking. Medicare for all opposes Medicare for all, but would expand coverage. So I don't know. I don't know who would get the coverage. Legalizing marijuana. Let the states decide. Man, Bloomberg is harsh because pretty much you look at the people who are on Bloomberg's level here. It's not many. He has a track record of cracking down on marijuana-related crimes, but since running for president, his views have softened. He supports allowing states to have legalized marijuana without interference. Okay. Yeah, very interesting, the marijuana thing and what that's a proxy for. Capital gains tax, he wants to increase it. Corporate income tax, raise corporate rates but keep rates lower than they were before 2017. So a moderate. Tax credits. He wants to make the credit more generous, especially for single childless workers. What does this mean? Is that like free money for people who don't make a lot of money? I don't know exactly what it is. That taxing the wealthy. A wealth tax, 5% surtax on those making more than 5 million. NAFTA, he supports the USMCA, which I'm never going to remember. I'm always going to remember it as NAFTA. So criminal justice, cybersecurity, doesn't really tell me the rest of this, but yeah, I would be interested to see his policies on trade. His policies on China would be interesting, but that's Mike. Let's see, does he have any endorsements so far? Let's see where he's at on some of these issues. Can I even click on this? Does the website work? Because I know it doesn't like my ad blocker. Is it going to block me from... Okay, what if I accept your ads? What if I pause the ad blocker? Are you going to let me see who's endorsed him? I know some people, he's bought some endorsements. I just want to click on it. Is this website going to work? Okay, finance tracker. Maybe he doesn't have any endorsements according to Politico. So Michael Bloomberg has banked 12 million. So I guess that's donations, or I don't know exactly what banking means. Does that mean money that they made? Is that fundraising, or what exactly is this? This is for October through December. He's spent 20 million. Tom has spent 157. Bernie spent more than everybody else, apparently. Oh, I think the money out, let me see what this is. Money in, money out. So I think, because Bernie is very high in both money in and money out, so I'm thinking money in is what he's donated, and the money out is what he has spent on his campaign. So Bernie's campaign earnings and spendings are higher than everybody else. This is from October to December. So Bloomberg's making and spending a lot. They're all sort of making and spending a lot. Guy who is the most frivolous... Well, actually, Joe looks very frivolous. I don't understand what money out means, because it says Joe made 23 million and he only spent 42K. Is that what is that evidence of? If you donated $23 million to Joe and he's like, I think I'm only going to spend 42,000 on my campaign. Is he actually trying? Am I interpreting the numbers correctly? Is Joe trying, or is he just doing this for fun? Is he just like, I'm old, I might as well go tell people to not vote for me, which is what we see Joe doing? He's like, please don't vote for me. You know what? I don't like you. Don't vote for me. Let's see. So Bernie's spending a lot. Pete's spending a lot. Liz is spending more than Pete, and she's failing miserably. Yeah, I guess Liz is evidence of what happens when you take an angry eyebrows and you put her up in front of the nation and you spend more than Buttigieg. People don't like it. Yeah, Yang spent a bit. Klobuchar is doing pretty well for her spending. A lot of these people have dropped out. Let's see, is there anyone else left in here? Because we've got Bloomberg, Steyer, Sanders, Buttigieg, Biden, Warren, and Klobuchar. So Klobuchar was doing worse on fundraising than Yang, but she's still in it, which is pretty impressive. And the rest of these, Gabbard is still in there. Gabbard is barely, I wouldn't say she's barely spent anything, but I mean, she spent more than Biden. But she's technically still in the race. I think everyone else has pretty much just dropped out. Okay. Bloomberg is paying his top staffers big bucks. Annualized salaries for his campaign chair and manager could reach as much as almost $400,000. Free spending Bloomberg campaign dropped $10,000 on sushi. That's pretty cool. Buying DC. Okay. Bernie Sanders. So it's showing the different, Tom and Bloomberg are just spending all their money. Sanders has all these small dollar donations. That's about half his campaign. He's got the unions. Buttigieg, how's he doing? He's paying his staffers. Biden's got a number of both Buttigieg and Biden have about a quarter small dollar donations. And he's doing the digital advertising. His staff appears to be the smallest of the four leading candidates. It doesn't tell me how big the staff is. That would be good to know. Is this the staff? No. Where's the staff at? Trying to see the staff because it says here, it just throws out these numbers. 900 plus. Is that his staff? What is 900 plus? I don't understand what these numbers are. They don't have dollar signs. Okay. I think that's the number of staffers. Well, why doesn't it show up for everyone? Politico sucks. Okay, so you're saying over 12,000 people gave Buttigieg campaign. Okay, that's a donor, so those are not staffers. So he has it's just throwing out random incongruous numbers so we can't compare. Bernie has 900 staffers. Buttigieg has 1,200 donators. Biden has 488 staffers. Elizabeth, she's got a number of small dollar donations. She has 1,100 people on her payroll. You got to spend all this money. You got to spend like $64,000 to get on the ballot, which is kind of ridiculous. I think it should be pretty much free to be on the ballot. I think if you want to get money out of politics, then it should just be free. It should just be, do you have 1% in such a poll or something like that? The idea you have to pay money to get on the ballot is kind of ridiculous. I mean, that's literally, you're buying the election. If you're poor, you can't get on the ballot. If you're rich, you can just buy your way onto the ballot. It's kind of ridiculous. Let's see. He sold a bunch of, this is Yang, sold a bunch of math hats. Klobuchar only had 180 staffers, and yet she's in the top 4 so far, which is pretty amazing. Klobuchar is she's squeezing a lot out of a little. I'll say that. As far as her. Kamala ran out of money. She's not very good at managing money. Gabbard is doing very well in the small dollar donations. She had just 13 staffers on the payroll. That's pretty incredible that they're keeping on. They're fanatics. It's a cult over there with Tulsi. And then they don't really tell me too much about the others. Some of these people. Scroll down to the bottom. Okay, that's Politico on the money. What about the endorsements? Okay, endorsements is blank. Now, here we go. Congress from all states. Let's see. He's got some endorsements. If I click on it, does it tell? Is this congressman? From governors and members of Congress. Kamala Harris got more endorsements than anyone except Joe. Joe got the most endorsements. Kamala Harris got the second most, and she dropped out. Michael Bloomberg is third. Cory Booker got 13 from his state, which is kind of, I guess they really like him in the state of New Jersey. He dropped out. Elizabeth got plenty of endorsements, but she's doing terribly. Bernie is the number 6 on the list of endorsements, but he's doing fantastic. Pete is number 7 on the list of endorsements, and he's doing fantastic. Klobuchar's number 8 on the list of endorsements, and she's doing fantastic. So endorsements don't seem to mean very much. 49 endorsements from all these different states. We can kind of look at where the endorsements are coming from. Let's see if there's any in South Carolina. Biden's getting them in South Carolina. Where is South Carolina? No, actually, he doesn't have any, if I'm correct. He has 0 endorsements from South Carolina. Did they give a date for this? This is February 13th. So 0 endorsements to South Carolina for Joe. 0 for Bloomberg. 0 for Warren. 0 for Bernie. 0 for Buttigieg. 0 for Klobuchar. So it looks like nobody had any endorsements from South Carolina. So that doesn't help me. Issues, let's take a look at the polls. Check out the latest 538. What is it, 538.com? Is that correct? Where are we at here? 538. Now, I want Nate Silver to tell me. Because Politico sucks. Your website's broken. You're a big fail. So, I want to see the latest polls. New Hampshire. Yes, I forgot New Hampshire. Well, that's since New Hampshire. So, apparently, take a look at Nate Silver here. So Sanders has a 33% chance. Biden has a 1 in 7, which is pretty bad. Buttigieg is 1 in 25. So apparently no one believes in Buttigieg. And who's the lady here? Klobuchar? Klobuchar doesn't really have a chance, according to this. I want to see Klobuchar. Less than 1 in 100? Wow. Surprising. Gabbard has a 0% chance. Sire has 0%. And all the rest, I suppose, are dropped out. Alright, so Warren has crashed. Remember when Warren was doing better than Biden? What a time to be alive. Now Warren's crashed. Buttigieg continues to fall. He got like a slight, tiny little bump, I guess, around the last primary or whatever. What was that primary? The Iowa caucus was the first one. He got a tiny little bump. Warren got a bump as well, but not very significant. So 4% chance for Buttigieg. And he had at one point been the runner-up. He had been right behind Sanders. Or he actually exceeded Sanders back in the... When was this? Give me the times on this. This was before November and January. So back in December, Buttigieg was second place. And now he just keeps falling. Warren has crashed and burned. Apparently, no one, I suppose, means a brokered convention. So they're saying there's a 40% chance of a brokered convention, which is Did we already have New Hampshire? I'm so out of the loop. I guess we already had New Hampshire. And apparently, because last time Sanders won by 20 points in New Hampshire, this time it was a closer race. So I guess that was bad for Sanders, and then they think it's going to be a brokered convention, and Biden's on the way out. And Bloomberg is rising. Everyone else is just decreasing. So it's between, basically, the way I look at it is, if it's a brokered convention, then it could be anyone's game, right? But let's look at the endorsements. Biden is winning on endorsements. And actually, let's go back to our endorsements. So who are the top two people in terms of endorsements? Number one is Joe Biden. Number two is Michael Bloomberg. Number three is Elizabeth Warren. Number four is Bernie Sanders. Number five is Pete Buttigieg. So where it stands today is that if there's a brokered convention, the most likely person to win because it's all about the superdelegates. So that's congressmen and senators and governors and party apparatchiks of the DNC. Joe Biden would win a brokered convention. If we took the vote right now, the superdelegates, Joe Biden wins. Runner-up is Michael Bloomberg. Then you've got Elizabeth Warren. Then you've got Bernie Sanders. Then Pete. Then Klobuchar. If we're looking at popular vote, who is the most popular? I mean, between Joe and Bloomberg, technically Biden is still above Bloomberg, but I expect him to continue to drop. I expect Bloomberg to continue to rise. So I think it's going to be very close. If it's a brokered convention, it's going to be very close between Bloomberg and Joe. And I think Bloomberg is willing to basically, say, hey, I have a lot of money. Vote for me. And I think that will be very convincing to certain superdelegates. Not for any improprieties, but just, people like to vote for the guy who has more money. So Bloomberg has a very good chance. He already has a 1 in 15. So if he continues to rise, if he rises above Joe, he's going to be at 1 in 7. And I expect him to overtake Joe here. When you look at all these people, again, this is not the polling, but these are the odds that 538 is giving. So, I think Bloomberg will be the consolidated candidate according to these. Now we'll look at the other things as well and make different predictions. But Bloomberg's going to he's going to consolidate the opposition to Bernie. So everyone's going to drop out, and it's going to be Sanders versus Bloomberg. And so right now it is a 3-15 ratio between Sanders and Bloomberg. I think that's going to change to that would be like a 30 to 1.5. So it's going to be like how would we expand that number? It's going to be, I think it's going to be like a 60-30 split, I think. I think Sanders is going to take maybe 60% and Bloomberg's going to take maybe 30% of the popular vote for the Democrats as we progress, as candidates drop out. And so that's going to be the point where I think Bloomberg is going to, if we add all these together, 1 in 7, 1 in 15, 1 in 100. If you just look at Sanders has a 1 in 3rd chance, and he's not driving up. He's pretty much hit his peak at Iowa, or right after Iowa, he hit his peak. And then in New Hampshire, he's going down. So he's not collapsing. He's still going to be strong, but I think he's going to stagnate between sort of 30 and 50%. I think he's going to vacillate between 30 and 50%. And I think Bloomberg's going to continue to rise up through 25. He's going to breach 25 at some point here. And he's going to compete with Bernie. But you have to understand that Bloomberg's chance of winning outright versus Sanders' chance, you also have the brokered convention, which is 38% right now. So I think Bloomberg could win. It's going to be, again, looking at endorsements, it's between Biden and Bloomberg in terms of endorsements for a brokered convention. So we have here February 3rd, showing the different dates. Okay. Majority of pledged delegates, they have certain projections here. Looking at this, they're suggesting that they think Sanders is going to win big on Super Tuesday. He's going to win Georgia. He's going to win, well, he's going to win some of it. It's not showing absolute wins, but he's going to win each of these. They're expecting Bloomberg to do really well in the 6 states on April 28th. So I don't really like that chart. Let's see, how many delegates do you need? What's the number? It's not 538. What's the total number of delegates that you need to win? It looks like there's 2,500 total, but then this goes above 2,500, so I'm not entirely sure. So how many do you need to win? You need to win at least half, right? So we're taking a look at some of this. Who will win Nevada? Yeah, that's very important. He's going to win with 38% of the vote. 80% of simulations, he wins between 20 and 55. So how many, where's the polls? Who will win South Carolina? Sanders is going to win South Carolina, apparently. And the delegates, who's going to win California? Sanders is going to win California. Who's going to win Texas? Sanders is going to win Texas. Who's going to win North Carolina? Sanders is going to win North Carolina. Who's going to win Virginia? Sanders is going to win Virginia. I mean, it's going to be pretty upsetting to the Bernie people. Sanders wins every single primary, according to Nate Silver. He's going to win Massachusetts. And then they do a brokered convention. And then they say, sorry, Bernie, but actually Bloomberg is the nominee. Apparently, Klobuchar is going to win Minnesota, very close with Sanders. Very close with Sanders in Minnesota. If Sanders beats her in Minnesota, that's pretty sad for Klobuchar. Who wins in Colorado? Can I guess? Can I guess it's Sanders? Okay. I haven't been looking at the second places. This is a very slow loading website. Let's let it cool down. Gotta let this website cool down. We've got some polls over here. Bloomberg. There's a new face in the forecast. Man, there's just too much like JavaScript going on here. Read about Bloomberg. He's spending enormous amounts of money. So maybe while this loads, because I want to look at, okay, something's loading here. Who's the second place? The second most likely is Biden with 1 in 6 versus a 2 in 3. So Biden is second place. And let's see, for South Carolina, Biden's in second place. For California, Biden is in second place. For Texas, Biden is once again in second place with half the chance of Bernie. For North Carolina, Biden is half the chance of Bernie. For Virginia, Biden has about half the chance of Bernie. For Massachusetts, Elizabeth, you got to come back. Man, it's going to be sad when Bernie beats Warren in Massachusetts. She's going to get slaughtered. Minnesota, we said, was Klobuchar. And then Colorado, who's second? Biden is second in Colorado. Tennessee, who's second in Tennessee? Biden. Half the chance is Sanders. Who will win? I read that as Alabama. Okay. Biden is forecasted to win Alabama. Oh, that's very interesting. But the race is a lot closer now. But that's very interesting that Biden is projected to win in Alabama, because you hear a lot about how Sanders has the minority support. But Biden is still doing very well among those Alabama minorities. For whatever reason, they're just not a fan of that northern Vermont socialist Sanders. They like a guy who can take care of a public swimming pool. So Sanders is going to win in Oklahoma. Biden has half the chance. For Arkansas, I think Biden could do well in Arkansas. Let's see. Oh, this is very interesting. Sanders is projected to win, but Bloomberg is second place. So I wonder why. When is the Arkansas primary? When is it supposed to happen? I don't know, but Bloomberg seems to be investing well in Arkansas. People from Arkansas love that New York mayor. It's like, should I vote for the New York? I think it was described something like New York landlord versus New York landlord, Trump versus Bloomberg. Utah. Bloomberg's doing well with the Mormons in Utah. The Mormons know what's up. They know Bloomberg is the best. They're tapped into that Bloomberg vote, so. But Sanders is still in the lead. Who will win Maine? It's got to be Sanders. But would Warren follow up? No, it's Biden with the follow-up. But Bloomberg is gaining. Man, when Bloomberg's second place in all these states, it's going to be very sad for Biden. Let's see, Vermont, it's got to be Sanders, but Biden is second place. For American Samoa, now this is very important. Sanders is currently in first place, but Bloomberg is sneaking up on Biden. He's sneaking up there. So that'll be a very important one, the Samoan vote. You know, if we did not live in a democratic society, one man, one vote, but if instead we lived in a warrior-led society where your ability to play rugby determined who became president, and we had, you know what makes sports amazing? I'm going to give you a suggestion. Let's stop for a moment. Give just a wild, crazy thought experiment. What if every sports team, every state, so like the New England Patriots and the I don't know, I'm going to mix up sports here, like the Broncos and the Redskins and all these different sports teams that are out there. You're only allowed to join the sports team if you are born in the state. And if you can like trace your ancestral lineage back in the state somehow. Or at least you have to be born there. So you have to be born there, and then here's how the delegate system works. Here's how the Electoral College works. Instead of voting, right, you have a Super Bowl, and how well your team does in the rankings of the Super Bowl determines how many delegates you get. Doesn't matter your state's population. So if you're like North Dakota and you win the Super Bowl, then you have the most, that you would get 50 delegates. If you're last place, you get 1 delegate. If you're first place, you get 50 delegates. And then you can have like a popular vote where the team, I don't know who would vote, the team members, or if it'd be popular vote of the state. But anyway, that determines your delegates. So it would be people born in the state. We would say, which is the strongest state? I think if it was rugby instead of football, I think American Samoa would have the 50 delegates. More than 50, because we've got Samoa, we've got Virgin Islands, we've got Puerto Rico. So American Samoa would have like 60 delegates. And they would decide the president of the United States. I think that would be cool. I think that would be kind of funky. Just to mix it up a bit. Just not going to happen, but it's always fun just to mix it up. Who will win the Michigan primary? I would think Klobuchar would do well in Michigan, but apparently Biden's in second place. Who will win the Washington? It's got to be Sanders, I would say, followed by Warren, but now it's Bloomberg. Bloomberg is doing very well in Washington. Excellent state for Bloomberg. He's basically double of Biden at this point. That's pretty incredible. So some of these states, Arkansas, Washington, they're on Team Bloomberg. So Missouri, it looks like, yeah, Bloomberg is above Sanders. Or he's above Biden, I should say. But it says Biden has the next best chance of winning, but Bloomberg's obviously gaining in Missouri. Mississippi, Biden, I would say, would do very well. If he's going to do well in Alabama, I'd say he'd do well in Mississippi. But for some reason, Biden is just killing it in Alabama. and he's not killing it in Mississippi. I don't know why that is. I don't know what's special about Alabama. They just love Joe Biden. Roll Tide, they just love Joe Biden. Let's see, we've got Sanders in Idaho with Bloomberg coming up ahead of Biden. So Biden's forecasted to win 17. Bloomberg is forecasted to win 17. So he's forecasted to win between 3 and 33% of the vote, whereas Biden is 0.6 and 38. So Biden has kind of a wider... We don't know what's going to happen with Biden, if he'll collapse, if he'll stay where he is, but I think Bloomberg's really the runner-up, because if you actually look at the data here, it's really biased toward the history of the candidate, and the history of Biden looks strong, but the future for Biden looks weak. So, in terms of the delegates, not the super delegates. North Dakota, you look pretty much all of these, and Bloomberg has overtaken Biden. In the prediction, it says Biden is the second place, but almost every single one of these, it's actually the latest polling says Bloomberg is above Biden in every single one of these states. All right, they're basically neck and neck right now, and I think Biden can only go down and Bloomberg can only go up. Now, of course, there's a lot of racism that's come out of Bloomberg, which is, unfortunate. I don't know how that got out there, but, some poor choice of words or whatever. He's just trying to help the minorities by policing their communities, okay? So he's a special type of, he's a compassionate... He's a compassionate man, okay? Got to be careful here with our support of Bloomberg. It's not politically correct. And that's why we support Bloomberg. So, what state is this? North Dakota. Who will win? The Democrats abroad. Bloomberg is doing well with Democrats abroad. Northern Marianas. Let's see. Bloomberg is going to do well there. It's pretty consistent. Florida is pretty important. I wish this wasn't in alphabetical. Florida should be at the top. All right, maybe it's chronological. Okay, so Sanders is doing well. But, Bloomberg could overtake Sanders in Florida. Because the forecast for Bloomberg and Biden, or Sanders and Biden are neck and neck, and then Bloomberg is sneaking up there. So I think Bloomberg has a chance in Florida. When you look at the heat map here, I haven't really been looking at the heat maps, but it'd be interesting to look at the different heat maps, see where the regions are. Illinois, Sanders is going to win. Bloomberg is going to be in second place. Ohio, let's see what's happening in Ohio. Sanders is going to win. Bloomberg in second place. Arizona. Of course, I'm saying all this assuming that, the racism doesn't hurt Bloomberg. Because when he gets on that debate stage, it's going to be sort of intense. They're going to do the same thing to him they did to Buttigieg when they're like, Mayor Buttigieg, under your rule, the minorities of South Bend were actually arrested for crimes. How do you plead? Innocent or guilty? Buttigieg says, I'm innocent. We arrested less people. It was an improvement. But actually, it was disproportionate. But it was decreased. So they're going to grill him. They're going to grill Bloomberg. Bloomberg is doing great in Arizona. How about Georgia? Will Biden make a comeback in Georgia? Can Biden win Georgia? Not after Iowa. Not after New Hampshire. But it's a pretty consistent thing here with the... I wish it broke it down by zip code. I want to see each individual person. Because all this is showing me is cities and districts. Who will win Puerto Rico? Bloomberg will be second place in Puerto Rico. This is so consistent. You'd think there'd be some kind of regional difference here. The only thing that sticks out is Klobuchar's from Minnesota, so she wins Minnesota. Warren's from Massachusetts, so she is second place in Massachusetts. Or something like that. It's your home state, or Biden is popular in Alabama for what reason, I don't know. Because I think he's from Maryland or Delaware or something. But you've got Otherwise, it's like purely uniform. Like these states vote with their basically the national polls look identical to the state polls in most cases in terms of who's first, second, third, which is all I'm looking at, Sanders and Biden. Louisiana, Hawaii, Sanders, Biden, Bloomberg. This is a strong thing. Alaska. I knew Alaska would go for Bernie. I think they just got that wild Bernie spirit. Wyoming, Sanders, Biden, Bloomberg. Wisconsin. Should we just abolish the state governments? Does it even matter anymore? Like, if the states are just going to vote along with the nation, then what's even the point? In terms of a primary, like in terms of a Democratic primary, I think the reason they do it state by state is because they know it's not going to be a difference, but they want to like slowly ease people. They want to like push people. It's this manufactured consent. New York, Bloomberg's going to win New York. That's a beautiful thing. Bloomberg is competitive with Sanders in New York. I'm excited. I'll be excited to vote for Bloomberg. Let's see. Who will win the Pennsylvania primary? Who's going to win in Pennsylvania? Pennsylvania, land of the Amish. Sanders, Biden, Bloomberg. Top three in that order. Maryland. Biden, you got to win Maryland. If you don't win Maryland, ooh, that's going to be sad. Or is he Delaware? He might be Delaware. I always forget. Two tiny states that are basically extensions of Washington, D.C. The states are so messed up. They used to make sense back in the day. They used to be like proportional populations. Doesn't make sense anymore. Sanders, Biden, Bloomberg in Maryland. How about Connecticut? Let's connect the dots. Sanders, Biden, Bloomberg. Man, this is repetitive at this point. Rhode Island. I want to like stop and make a point about like freedom of speech while we're doing this. If we see something jumps out, we'll go back to the data, but that's Rhode Island. As far as freedom of speech, this is Delaware though. Biden is supposed to win in Delaware, but Sanders is creeping up on him. It's going to be very humiliating if Sanders wins Delaware. Kansas. The point about freedom of speech, I guess, is that if any Democrat wins, the argument from Trump supporters is that essentially you're going to go to jail. But if Bloomberg is president, can he really put you in jail for being racist? That's a legitimate question. Buttigieg is doing well in Indiana, his home state. He's in second place to Sanders. That's his, you got home field advantage there. Nebraska, same. West Virginia, I'm guessing is going to be like off the charts for Sanders, but maybe not. When West Virginia votes for Bloomberg, that's going to be the real test. Can Bloomberg win in West Virginia? Oregon, I'm surprised Bloomberg's not doing as well in Oregon as he is in Washington. I consider them to be the same state. We're going to be honest. I think Washington's a little more, well, it's got Seattle. What does Oregon have? The Oregon Trail. It's a pretty good game, but I don't know. New Jersey, who has to win New Jersey? I think Bloomberg does well in New Jersey. It's basically an extension of New York City, right? It's just where New Yorkers go to vacation. Is that true? New Mexico, the same. District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. Who do they like in D.C.? It's the same as the National. Come on, D.C. If either vote for Biden or Bloomberg. Why is Washington, D.C. voting for Sanders? This is kind of crazy. Very strange. Montana is going to be the same. Sanders, Biden, Bloomberg. Boy, this is like reading Locke at this point. It says, I expected to see some regional variation. I expected to see cultural change within the United States. I expected to see balkanization. Let's look at the Iowa forecast. How well did Nate Silver do? He said Sanders was going to win, followed by Biden, followed by Buttigieg, followed by Warren, followed by Gabbard. When Gabbard did terribly, Biden did terribly. So already we're seeing that Nate Silver is boosting Biden's numbers. Nate Silver is lying about how popular Biden is. Remember when we used to support Biden? That was because Biden was saying the most controversial things. If we're going to talk about a free speech candidate, I don't think Donald Trump is a free speech candidate. I think Donald Trump has banned anti-Semitism on college campuses, which is great, which is wonderful. I'm happy he did it. But it's not free speech, right? It's not free speech. So when you ban anti-Semitism on college campuses, when you ban anti-Semitism for government workers and government contractors, as much as I love the Jewish people, as much as I hate anti-Semitism, and as much as I want all anti-Semites in jail, at the same time, it's not the free speech candidate. So to me, the reason why Trump was a free speech candidate in 2016 is because he would say wild, off-the-wall, crazy things. And the sort of working theory of the time was, well, if the president is saying crazy things, there's no way he can send people to jail for saying crazy things. But I'm not sure that theory's correct anymore. If that theory was correct, then I would say Biden calling people dog-faced pony soldiers, talking, kissing random black ladies on the cheek without obtaining consent. What other crazy things? He talked about the rule of thumb a lot. He promoted the Violence Against Women Act. What else did he do? He talked about his hairy legs. He touched a lot of adolescents in public. He's very handsy. He likes to grip people. He likes to show his grip strength. So it was a quixotic campaign, right? But now we've got Bloomberg, and Bloomberg is not crazy. Here's the thing between Bloomberg and Biden. Biden is just stupid, and because he's so stupid, and it's not his fault, he's old, but because he's so stupid at this point, he'll say anything, and he doesn't even know what he's saying. Whereas the reason why Bloomberg is controversial, not because he's senile, not because he's saying crazy things, but because he is like Machiavellian, because he's talking about a certain category of people and levels of criminality in a direct, lucid way. He's not just saying, he's not saying, I can't even say off-color remarks like Biden does, but, back in my day, we opposed busing, and that was A-okay. He doesn't reminisce, he doesn't have nostalgia for the past. Bloomberg has a proven record of implementing policies that have a disparate impact. So that is the significance of Bloomberg for me. That is what makes Bloomberg interesting. And the fact that he is also a Jewish billionaire, and the fact that he's trying to buy his way into the White House, I'm like, let's do it. Let's go. Like, I'm tired of these types of people hiding in the shadows. I say, come out and lead the country. I mean, did New York City get worse under Mayor Bloomberg? I think he decreased crime. I think Mayor Bloomberg, as President Bloomberg, I think he might start mass deportations. He might say, well, look, there's just one type of people that does all the hit and run drunken driving. So, you just take all the cops, you put them on the border, we lay out some mines or whatever, you just do what you got to do. He's not going to build a wall. Wall's the stupidest thing in the world. Why would you build a wall? People can take a plane. People can climb the wall. People can squeeze through the bars or whatever. You don't build a wall. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Building the wall, you're an idiot. No, Mayor Bloomberg, he's going to say, what's the cheapest way to get it done? If he wants to get it done. Of course, he probably doesn't want to get it done. But he would put up a minefield. He would say, let's just put a bunch of mines. Let them cross. Let them see if they're going to even try to cross. Let's see if they try to smuggle some drugs. We're just going to lay out a bunch of mines. And we're going to put AK-47 gun turrets with, we're going to use our investing in the software industry to get some automated AKs out there. Bloomberg would get it done. Of course, Bloomberg is not going to do that because, if you're rich like Bloomberg, mass immigration is great. But I don't know. Bloomberg is very interesting, and he also shows some interesting points about Hillary. If Hillary was his running mate, of course, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's just a rumor that was put out by Bloomberg to create interest. You know, any publicity is good publicity. So he's like, everyone's like, what the heck? He's going to have Hillary again? This is crazy. And so people get interested in Bloomberg. He just wants people talking about him, which is why we're doing the podcast. He doesn't care if it's good, bad, in between. He just wants people talking. Maybe he's the one who's putting out these clips about the stop and frisk. Maybe he's promoting the issue. You never know with crazy Bloomberg. I mean, he's a rich genius. He's like Batman. He's like Bruce Wayne. He's like a cross between Bruce Wayne and the Penguin. He's like a synthesis of the two. He is beyond good and evil. He is Nietzschean. So he's pretty amazing. I don't know. I'm pretty starstruck about Bloomberg. We've got Sanders doing well in New Hampshire, and Buttigieg was supposed to be in second place, which I think was accurate. And the other people did not do so well. Let's see, scrolling down. Have we gotten to the bottom? Yeah, we got to the bottom. Excellent. I mean, that's pretty much all the data, right? That's pretty much it. I had some arguments about Bloomberg. Let's see. People calling Shania a Fed. If Shania is advocating for violence, then I will have to ban Shania. But that to me is the main Fed behavior. I think there are plenty of people who just like to talk trash on the internet. So we've had so many comments that I can't even see all the comments anymore. That's how bad it's gotten. And it's not even a popular stream. We've only got like 31 viewers. So what's up with that? So why do we have so many comments today? Is there a way for me? It's like YouTube's like, oh, we don't have enough bandwidth to store all your comments. It's very sad, YouTube, that you can't keep track of all this. Let's see. I'm going to take a look at the pop-out chat. That doesn't help me. Let's take a look. Okay, so we just lost a bunch of the chat. My apologies. So why do... Okay, I'm listening to myself now. How do I save the chat? How do I do that? This is too bad. Box Day comes out. Teach him skills. Filial piety. 4 followers. Banned from the live chat. Let's see. Money. Docs. Minions. Judge. Bring back Judge? I think it was Job. Apprenticeship programs. Cosmetology and nail salons, not plumbers and electricians. Thank you for making a cogent point there, Ezra. Yeah, that's interesting. It's part of the FIRE economy. You know, finance, investment, real estate, entertainment. I consider, what would you call that? Cosmetics? Where does that go into FIRE? Cosmetics. I would say it's a form of entertainment, but can we say W or F? Call it the F FIRE economy? F or W. I don't know what we categorize this letter. What does cosmetology fall under? It's not entertainment. Is it sex? Is it part of the sexual economy? Fire ease. The sexual economy, cosmetology. I don't know what that is. The woman economy. Legalized drugs. That's funny. What sets Bloomberg apart? He seems like a copy of all of them. Okay, well, there are 2 billionaires in the campaign, Bloomberg and Steyer. Steyer's not doing too hot for whatever reason. Bloomberg's just richer. He's cooler. He has his own media company. So Bloomberg is just a more Machiavellian form of Steyer. Steyer's half Episcopalian. So Steyer is like he's got this like liberal cat boy. Well, I don't mean it in that sense, but he's like a cat lady, but a male version of a cat lady, sort of. Like he's sort of a true believer on some level. I don't think Bloomberg believes anything. I think he's just in it for the power. So I think Bloomberg is a very distinct man. He's a man of integrity. He would never purchase endorsements. Should be criminalized. Let's see. FDA will legalize drugs when they have full control of all distributors from raw process to counter sales. Let's see if there are any more good. Did Tulsi drop out? No, she did not drop out. Samoan linebacker for president. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Tulsi is not. We were looking at Hawaii. Tulsi's not winning in Hawaii, which is kind of sad. I think I preferred Kenneth, the Biden guy, to Kenneth, the Bloomberg guy. Should have stayed on the sinking ship. Now we got to keep. We got to keep on keeping on. The whole jazz intro with the New Yorker vibe's not my thing. Yeah, well, I understand it's not everyone's thing. I guess Joe Biden's theme would be like a country song from Alabama. I guess that would be his theme. Why are you supporting Bloomberg? So let's go into the free speech argument a little deeper. Trump's not defending free speech. Who's going to defend free speech? I mean, the Democrat Party is probably going to intensify the current attacks on free speech. What's going to be the effect of that? Like, do we care at the end of the day? If I go to jail because in the past I said some politically incorrect things that I regret, and I'm deeply sorry about it, but let's say a law is introduced that criminalizes past infractions. It overturns the concept. What is that? The concept of you can't criminalize things that happened in the past. I forget what the phrase is, but if they just totally reverse, our system of Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Norman jurisprudence, as Biden called it, our Anglo-European, Anglo-Norman jurisprudential system. It's our culture, our Anglo-Norman jurisprudential culture. If we reverse all of that and I end up going to jail, which I would, well, I shouldn't say I deserve it. I shouldn't say that because maybe I'll be very sad. Maybe that'll be used against me, but theoretical. I've actually never said anything politically incorrect. Oh boy. But we're trying to take like a third person position rather than just asking what's good for me. Like obviously, it's good for me not to go to jail. But if a Democrat gets in and they start sending people to jail, what's going to be the effect of that? Are they just going to kill people? I don't think they're just going to go in and kill millions of people for saying politically incorrect things. I think they're going to start issuing $500 fines, or in France, you go to France, $10,000, even $100,000 fines. Germany, very similar. You go to prison for a couple of years. You don't go to prison for your life. And so it's going to turn a bunch of people who are messing around on the internet, and it's going to make them into prison-hardened criminals, which would be very interesting. Would it be the end of the world? Would it be the worst thing in the world? Would it have a chilling effect on speech? Absolutely would have a chilling effect on speech. But I think it would be very interesting to see Bloomberg in there. I think it would be a move towards Caesarism. I think it would help erode our democratic system to have Bloomberg in office. I'm promoting Bloomberg as the anti-democratic candidate. I think Trump was that in 2016. I think he really threatened, the democratic system in a certain way. Hillary was supporting it. I think Trump undermined people's faith in democracy. I think if Hillary had won, they'd say, oh, of course, Hillary won, same old, same old. And if Trump wins, I think people will say, oh, Trump won again, same old, same old. That's what people are expecting. No one expects Bloomberg. I mean, some people do, like me, I expect him. But a lot of people don't expect him. So I think if Bloomberg wins, it's going to be an upset. It's going to, in the same way that the left wing looks at the government and they say the government's corrupt, it's owned by racists, it's owned by Donald Trump, it's systematic racism, it's white supremacy. The left is really upset. I think if Bloomberg gets in there, I think the right wing is going to have a certain reaction. So, I mean, you could call that a form of accelerationism, but I think it's moving the culture forward. I'm not talking about a collapse of the system. I think Bloomberg would do what's right for the economy, basically, for the GDP. I think we are due for a recession. You look at all the indicators, we're due for a recession. The last recession we had was in 2008. And so now it's been 12 years, which is pretty much the longest period of growth we've ever had in United States history since at least World War II. So we're due for a recession. It should be coming. Now it hasn't been coming. Why is that? Quantitative easing? Maybe there's been a Trump boost, maybe deregulation. I don't know exactly why the recession hasn't happened yet. It was expected to happen in 2018, but somehow it didn't happen. So I don't know what's keeping the economy alive at this point. I don't know if Bloomberg could keep it going for another 8 years. Probably not, in my opinion. I think we'd have to have at least some small correction, at least like a 1950s style recession back with the Richard Nixon and I guess that was during the Eisenhower administration, the recession of 1954. It wasn't a huge recession. It didn't destroy the economy. But it was a small correction, so I think we're at least due for a small correction. I don't think the economy is going to collapse, but I think we are going to see a small recession ahead of us. I think Bloomberg would do well. He would manage the recession well. What kind of surname is Buttigieg? I don't actually know. I thought it was Norwegian, but now I've heard. I don't remember what it is. Buttigieg. What is Geeg? Could it be German? What is Buttigieg? Buttigieg is sort of like he is a fusion of Hillary and Biden. That is, he is a career politician. He's a career politician, and he's very young, and he's very smart. I want to know the origin of the name. Peter Paul Montgomery Buttigieg. What a heck of a name. It's a Maltese name. It's from Malta, so apparently it's Arabic. It means father of chickens. Wow. Amazing. I want to take a look at some of these Buttigiegs. Apparently he's Arabic. He's basically a Muslim. He would be our first Muslim president. That's pretty incredible. So, if Bloomberg fails and Biden fails, we're probably going to have to support Buttigieg. I don't know that Buttigieg can win. I don't know if America, I think, might be too homophobic for a gay president at this point. So, let's see. American politics, yucky. Klobuchar has outperformed. I've not heard anyone online supporting her, so she's popular with boomers. The book club is spamming YouTube with baby crab. Let's check out the book club. Is that true? Is the book club actually doing that? Update on the baby crab. Are you serious, book club? All right, he's posted 2 videos on baby crab. Let's find out what's happening. Pull this up on the YouTube. See what's going on with book club. Oh, I can just take this and put that in there. See what this looks like. Look at this baby crab. It's gonna be loud.
Baby crab.
Ah, it's like. Oh, that definitely hurt my. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's not good. So he's eating oysters, and there's a baby crab on the old clam there. Let's check out the comments, see what people are saying about this baby crab. People making some comments. This video might here's a female who likes the book club. Okay, not the most interesting comments. He's almost to 10K subscribers. That's pretty incredible. I think this might be a 10K subscriber celebration.
Mom, you know that crab?
Yeah, what's going on with this crab?
It's a pea crab.
A pea crab? I've never heard of such a thing.
They live inside oysters.
Oh, okay. He's got like a horse painting up there with some shrubbery.
Just said.
Some Is he streaming?
Yeah, we took away his house.
Took away the house. He's a homeless. I mean, maybe
Fuck.
Bloomberg can help out with this homeless crab. Update off of people making fake replies. No real replies there, just some fake replies. Okay, well, that was a video. I support the book club. You know, someday people are going to ask me when I'm on the debate stage, they're going to say, what do you say for yourself that you ever associated with the book club? And I say, I endorse everything he's ever done, and I'm responsible for all his behaviors. Let's see. Some of these comments are funny. But the thing is, the thing about the Jewish community in the United States of America is that, I mean, there's a lot of sarcastic comments. There's like, a Jew has never had power before, and it's like this kind of brutal sarcasm. But the point of it is that if Bloomberg is in power, if he's the president, whereas if Bernie's in power, it's like, well, Bernie's critical of Israel, and he's for the poor people, and he doesn't really give the appearance of a Jewish ethnic advocate. Bloomberg literally has the Star of David for the little dot on the I in Mike. Like, he's running an explicitly Jewish campaign. If you can run and say, Mike Bloomberg, Star of David, 100% Jewish, I will do what's best for the Jewish community. If he wins, I think that will change the consciousness. I'm not saying it's going to create a revolution. I'm not saying it's going to, even create more anti-Semitism, but I'm saying that it's going to move the conversation forward in terms of people understanding where we are as a culture. It's going to be as monumental as when JFK the Catholic became president. I mean, it's going to be a real shift in the way Americans conceive of themselves as a country. So I think that'll be very interesting. I mean, just look at it now. There are people screaming at Donald Trump, you're an anti-Semite. I mean, his daughter's Jewish. Kushner's Jewish. Kushner is the longest remaining member of the administration. He handles immigration. He handles the Middle East. Kushner basically, I mean, what does Kushner not handle? What does he not touch? What does Kushner not do? Tell me a part of the administration. Trade? The trade war with China, maybe? But pretty much everything else, Kushner's on top of it. And yet people are like, oh, you're an anti-Semite and he's hurting the Jews. And so there's this whole, I mean, the Jewish thing has been so brazen, in your face. They knocked over the stones and he caused the synagogue shooting in Charlottesville and all this stuff. And it's been so public and so unavoidable. I think there would be a kind of a cultural acceleration with Bloomberg where you wouldn't be able to do that to Bloomberg. And so it would give a different flavor to the discussion. Good, bad, in between. I don't think it would be radical. I don't think anything is radical is going to happen out of 2020. I think 2020 is a pretty boring election. But I think it would be the most, of all the mediocre, boring options, I think Bloomberg is the most exciting right now. Let's see, who cares? Let's just see. It's true. It's true. I don't know what that comment is. I'm looking for the long comments. I don't want these little short comments. I want to see something. The oversized gecko lizard party controls the donkey party and the elephant party. Is this what are these code names for? Kenneth wants me to become a Mormon. Well, here's my thing. Whatever I want for people is kind of irrelevant. When I talk about minoritarianism and people say, what's that? And I say, well, Jews and Mormons and Amish and Presbyterians and Episcopalians and all these people, they're minoritarians. I'm giving examples of the future, what the future is going to look like. The future is not going to look like, on the one hand, it's the Hispanics and the blacks and the whites and America as a country, as a nation state, as a nationalist entity, and Germany, and France, and Great Britain, and Poland, and Russia, and maybe China. China is actually a supranational. It's an imperial entity. So what I'm saying is that within an imperial global sphere, you're not going to have nation states, you're not going to have races, you're not going to have these big blocks of people in power. They're still going to be maybe recognizable on a certain level, but recognizability is not the same thing as power. I think that minorities are going to have power. And if you're not part of a minoritarian group, if you're not part of a tribe, you're going to get hollowed out. We're seeing the hollowing out of the middle class. We're seeing the coming apart of America. You know, we're seeing Charles Murray talks about this. You basically either have to be in the upper class or the lower class, and there's no in between. You don't have the option to just be a middle class guy with your nuclear family and your 9-to-5 job. That's not an option. So you have to join up. You have to join up with a mercantile strategy. You have to join up with a warrior strategy. You have to join up with a priestly strategy, or you have to join up with a syncretism of all three within a tribal strategy, an ethno-religious strategy like the Mormons, Amish, Jews, Coptic Christians, Assyrian Christians, the Alawites. There are plenty of examples of this, and I give examples. So, you know, I'm not actually a member of the Mormon Church. I don't actually go to a Mormon church every Sunday. I've talked about my relation to Christianity. In the last video, we talked about how Christianity is metamythic and liberalism is metamythic, and I think we're going to continue in a metamythic direction. And so I'm not anti-Christian, I'm not anti-liberal, but I'm saying we're going to continue in this trajectory, and I'm trying to predict what that is. I'm trying to move toward that, but it's a difficult thing. I'm not infinite in my knowledge and wisdom, so I'm a little bit stymied by my limitations, but that's what I say. I mean, that's a serious answer to an unserious comment. Donkey and the elephant. Dragons are lizards. Dragons are cool. We're being invaded. Having 1 or 2 in the chat is tolerable, but 3 and they start talking to each other. America Samoa is a launch pad. You think you're better? Oh, geez. I didn't realize people had avatars of navels in the chat. I don't know about this. Getting cold feet. What does it mean, cold feet? Are you talking about Biden? How did it come to this? I wouldn't be surprised if God changes his mind and starts a second flood. Kenneth is right that there aren't many geniuses anymore. No one with dignity, nobody to look up to. That's true. We are shifting from a warrior-led society to a mercantile society, and I claim that honor is a fundamentally warrior virtue. And so if you don't have warriors in charge, you're not going to have honor. That's because I believe morality comes from the top down. It comes from the ruling class. So we are seeing the destruction of honor. But I don't think it's going to be a great flood in the terms of the destruction of civilization. I think it's going to be genetic engineering. I think that's what's going to happen. STEM is for people with no souls. Artists are those who are remembered. I want STEM and art to combine. I have many pics of him. I don't know. I don't know how I can... What limit I'm going to put on the chat here with some of these people. I don't know where I'm going to draw the line. Let's see. Don't have right-wing views. Don't become popular. Let's see. Nick has accumulated $3 million. Is that true? I didn't think it was $3 million. I knew he could make $3,000 on a show. How many shows? He's almost done 1,000 shows. If you consider all the shows he's done and then all the video game streams he's done, he's probably done 1,000. So 3 million, I would say 3 million tops. I think it's probably less than 3 million, but if you consider the fact that he's done 1,000 shows and he maxes out at 3,000 per show, it's obviously some shows are only 100, some shows only 1,000 or whatever. But I would say 3 million would be the peak. But it's not an exact... I mean, he's making a 6-figure salary at this point. He's not a poor man. Nick doesn't want to lead a movement. I'm not so sure about that. He's accumulated trillions of... Not trillions. He's not accumulated trillions. You got to praise Kenneth for pointing out all the cannibalists coming after Nick. Yeah, that's the hierarchy, you know. Everyone wants to attack somebody who's more successful. Everyone is naturally jealous. And so even if your criticisms are true and right and correct, that doesn't negate the emotional um, underlying incentives for what you're saying. So like I could point out, let's say someone beats me up and they happen to be objectively ugly in some sense, or they're, I don't know, I don't want to get too into it because we're not allowed to insult people's opinions, or not insult people's faces and their appearance, I should say. Even abstract, metaphorical people. But if some guy beat me up and he was ugly, and as I'm being beaten up, I say, "You're ugly, you're ugly." Well, that might be in some sense objectively true. Maybe he has a lack of symmetry to his face or whatever. But obviously, the reason I'm saying that is not purely because I'm like declaring an objective fact. Like a declaration in itself, the fact that we're motivated to speak and pay attention to certain things and not other things shows the primacy of emotionality in the course of the conversation where it's directed. If he wasn't beating me up, maybe I wouldn't call him ugly, you know, and so the things that we talk about ultimately have emotional foundations. It doesn't mean that there's no such thing as an objective truth or something that's objectively correct. It just means that the set of facts that we pay attention to, you know, what we focus on, is really determined by emotionality and not by logic and reason fundamentally. Um, his following is people who think we can pull out of the world and enjoy their lifestyles. I mean, it's very contradictory. Yeah, there's a lot of criticisms you can make, but again, I don't think I recognize when you criticize someone who's successful. It doesn't matter how true your criticism. Ugh, I'm really getting tongue tied today. It doesn't matter how true your criticisms are. They're always going to be based in a kind of jealousy. I think Nietzsche does talk about this. Bloom boys. That's the problem with right-wing communities. I prefer. Okay, if you're making sexualized comments about presidential candidates, I'm gonna hide you. I think that's where I'm drawing the line. If you're making sexualized comments about presidential candidates, that's not respectful. That's not respectful to the office of the presidency. The president is not a sexual object for you to prey on. He is the predator. He preys on you. You know, Bill Clinton, he preys on you. Donald Trump preys on you. JFK is double teaming Marilyn Monroe with his brother. You don't get to double team him. He double teams the American public. So I will not accept that lack of respect. Okay, so let's see. We've got, yeah, geez, I can't read a lot of these things. Let's see. Boom. Oh, I gotta scroll up. Scrolling. Okay, here we are. Bloomberg has paid off Republican senators. Be nice to each other. I legit wondered whether he leaked the audio himself. I mean, they were public interviews. They weren't private interviews. But yeah, he probably did leak some audio of himself. I don't know. Maybe somebody doesn't like him. If someone advocates violence, yeah, they're going to have to get banned. Can I be part of your following? Cosmetology, fitness, and cosmetic procedures all fall into sexual market investment. Yeah, sexual market investment. So the fire you economy. I need to make it something really phonetically nice though. Oh no, it's S. Buyer's economy. Buyer's economy. Doesn't work as well. Sea fire. Is it the sea fire economy? Sexual entertainment finance, investment, real estate. The Seafire economy. Is that the one? We're working on it. We'll work on it. What was your point about freedom of speech? Just that it seems like that was the big thing with Trump at the end of the day. I don't think it was immigration. I don't think it was trade with China. I don't think it was global warming. I don't think it was anything. I think it was political correctness. I think it was political correctness. I think it was freedom of speech. I think that's what people wanted. That's what they're voting for. That was the interesting thing about Trump for me. And so now Trump has pretty much reversed his orientation toward freedom of speech. And he doesn't say anything interesting. He says, let's ban anti-Semitism. He says, China is our enemy, which across the board, Democrats, Republicans, establishment all hate China. So, I mean, is he saying anything interesting? He's calling out Michael Bloomberg for being racist. So I just kind of have to defend Michael Bloomberg as a principled mayor of New York City who kept the city safe. And he defended us against the super predators. So again, there's some like level of irony to this, but really, I just don't see Trump as an interesting candidate. I don't see him as someone who's preventing the erasure of interesting things and moving us toward this. Like, if we're going to get to a totalitarian dictatorship, like let's get there hard and fast. Like, let's stop with the kid gloves, which is Trump's approach. With all this bluster and all this showmanship, and it's a reality TV show, let's just force it through with some icy cold Machiavellianism. With Bloomberg, a Bloomberg dictatorship. I think he is competent. I don't even want to see him on the debate stage because that would demean his dignity. Like, the monarch does not make the speech before the masses. He makes the speech before the generals. So, never say Anglo and Norman in the same sentence. He'd die in a day. I don't know. I would shave my head. You've never seen me with my shaved head. With my shaved head, and I would have my gym bod. I would be eating the prison slop, getting my gym bod with my shaved head. You know, you'd see a different side if I was in prison. Kaiser Bloomberg. He would be good friends with the other big. I don't know. That seems like a neg. Coronavirus is very interesting. I haven't been keeping up with it. See, I have the same attitude on coronavirus that most people have on the election, which is we don't know what's going to happen. There's no point in talking about it until it actually happens. So right now, the situation with the coronavirus is it's still growing. It's still increasing. I mean, I hate to say it, but if it decimates the population of China, life will go on. If it comes to the West and it starts infecting Westerners and becomes a big problem, that's the point at which I say, now I'm scared. Now I'm afraid to touch people. Now I'm afraid to be in public. Now I'm afraid to shop for groceries. But we'll see. I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's like, Bloomberg is bad for me personally, but maybe he changes the culture and he moves us forward. And coronavirus would be bad if I got infected personally, but maybe it moves the culture forward. So these are these dynamic events that open up new possibilities. I'm afraid that viruses affect on the economy. Chicks call him, what are you talking about? I hope that's not directed toward me. Father of chickens, not as catchy as mother of dragons. Oh, maybe that's about Buttigieg. Stop retracting messages. Yeah, that's very annoying. Pretty fresh. When this stream is over, I'm going to go back on this video. I'm going back on this video and look at all of Ken's recommended videos. Okay. Let's go Mike Bloomberg. If Bloomberg wins, President Kushner wouldn't be happy or won't be happy. Yeah, it would be funny. Wouldn't it be funny if Bloomberg brought Kushner into his administration? That would be, mwah. Get Steyer in there. Even give Bernie a position. Give him like some kind of position in there. Get the whole gang together. Get the whole team together. It would be interesting. I would be interested in it. The U.S. establishment is anti-China. Visa, MasterCard, American Express aren't allowed in mainland China. Makes you think. You have to be religious to be a minoritarian. Yeah, I think everyone is religious. I think even atheists are religious. So yes, everyone is religious, and therefore you also have to be religious to be a minoritarian. You want a long comment? Why don't you read out my post on the last video and actually respond to it? Well, let's take a look. I mean, I don't know if I'm actually going to do that. I might skim over it. I've responded to some things. We'll take a look. The comment section on YouTube is terrible now. We've got one comment held for review. I don't know about Dugan. I'll approve that. I'll approve Pete. Let's take a look at the last Shania comment. Shania has made a very long comment here. Let's take a look at Shania's comment. How are we going to open this up? I don't want it to play audio, so please don't play audio. YouTube, with the autoplay, you can't shut it off. Okay, we're going to take this. We're going to bring it over here. And, yep, the audio is off. Is it? Yeah, we got the window capture device. We got everything that we need. Okay. We've got food analogies. And now we're gonna zoom in a little bit. That doesn't work. We're gonna transform a little bit. Let's take the video capture, put that on top, and then bring it over here. But I still want to be in. I still want to be inside, you know what I mean? I still want to be in the frame. I just want to block out all the video suggestions. That's it. Let's do a little transformation, say 500 on both sides. How's that looking? Still looking good? Oh, I'm huge, dude. I'm massive. I'm a giant. Let's take a look at this. And we can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, that's right. Let's see, food analogies. Brexit presents an inconvenience for your thinking. No, it really doesn't. And that was my response. I just responded to the first wrong thing that I saw. Brexit does not present inconvenience for you. For me. Brexit represents the way that the elite, and I probably have something, no, that was playing over there. Brexit represents the way that the elite makes people think that they're winning when they're losing. Brexit is a performance that the elite put on for the masses to manipulate the masses. Brexit is not actually something that changes the relation of Britain to globalization. Globalization is increasing in Britain. It's just happening through a non-EU vector. I think it's possible for Britain to reintegrate with the EU through other sort of treaties, but that remains to be seen. We'll see what happens in the future. It's actually these pressing issues of realpolitik. I've addressed Russia. I've stated the Russophobes pose a security threat for the West. Okay, so you're saying that Russia needs to join up with NATO to defeat China. The NATO aggression in Eastern Europe has been a serious blunder. I agree with you. In the long term, a loosely integrated China-bound Russia is less preferable for the Russians than a loosely integrated Western-bound order given the geography. The more we push Russia away, the more we may force this alliance. I've got something to say regarding your contempt for mathematics and engineers, the certain arrogance which is shared on both sides of the natural versus social science divide. I, for one, having both a verbal and numerical capacity, do not feel the need to exclude myself to either realm, especially if you're going to pontificate in the realm of politics and philosophy. Me and you have clashed heads on where power resides. I, for one, do not believe you could appreciate the paradoxical nature of reality or the Heraclitan idea that the way up and the way down are one and the same. So the way to power is also the way to weakness. Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree on that one. Or that war is truly the father of all. Well, I don't think I've denied that. Some of the implicit assumptions you seem to take for granted deeply anger me because they are pathetic reaffirmations of the status quo. I am not sure whether this is because of some positive trend which you picked up in mainstream sociology or whether it's from having intermingled with the neo-absolutist school or a mixture of both, but I'm tired of hearing these fallacious arguments being repeated back and forth online. It lacks originality. I'm tired of people complaining about the establishment and not doing anything. That's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of that. So, same, dude. Feel the same way. You frequently speak of computational minds. I'm not sure whether you conform to the whole left-right brain analogy. That would be a big no. Frankly, I don't care either way, as I find it to be a useful analogy, and that is, if you're going to be involved in numbers or problem solving and actually be proficient at what you do, you have to have a creative mind. You require a certain fluidity and ability to think outside the box. I can speak from experience, both with myself and colleagues I've worked with, so you definitely misrepresent the kinds of personalities involved with those kinds of sciences. So I believe that's the comment you were talking about. And it's just a fact. It's just a fact that engineers take a problem that's given to them and they attempt to solve it. And, higher thinkers are the ones who create the problems in the first place. So it's been said that lawyers rule over engineers. I think that's one of the most concise ways to put it. Lawyers rule over engineers. Lawyers tell the engineers what problems to solve. The social sciences rules over the natural sciences, and natural scientists are very upset about this and angry, and they feel they want to do, like Kurt Doolittle is a great example of a natural scientist, a mathematical type computational mind, and he wants to revolt against Abrahamism in the social sciences, the priestly parasites. And I say, okay, you're going to keep whining and complaining, and priests are going to continue to rule over you, and merchants as well. So I can't go to China and use my cards. Doesn't seem right. I mean, the way to get through this problem, if you want the reemergence of a warrior spirit, you have to use genetic engineering. There's no other way to do it. So that's what I'm trying to accelerate towards. If the post is long, it means it's smart. I think the Cromwell versus Kenneth Beath is the most exciting tension. Shania, Cromwell, Hetzi, Chatsy therapy has great endurance. Reminds me of Mr. Cool Mug back in the day. Mr. Cool Mug used to have this fire. I think Mr. Cool Mug still has a little bit of that fiery passion. But Mr. Cool Mug, I don't know, it's kind of stale now because Mr. Cool Mug will basically counter signal every point that I make. I mean, I'm a big counter signaler, so it's not. That's for me to say that's something. But he'll counter signal every point I make and also watch every video I make. So at some point you see a Mr. Cool Mug model a comment and your eyes kind of glaze over, and you say, okay, well. I don't know. I mean, if he had a YouTube channel, if he wanted to, I would love to have Mr. Cool Mug as a co-host and have him on here. But at some point, it's like you kind of get a feel for Mr. Cool Mug is gonna complain about this, or he's gonna give this point, or he's gonna post song lyrics. And he's still here, he's still around. But I kind of think of Shania as sort of the new Mr. Cool Mug. Maybe this is the Shania Page podcast now instead of the Mr. Cool Mug podcast. Let's take a look at a link from the Chinese ambassador, why American credit cards can't break into China. I didn't watch that because the audio was atrocious. I'm Catholic only because I like Vivaldi, Bernini, and Louis Leval. STEM is for people who have no souls. LOL, that's a comment right there. Chinese locals, not Americans abroad. YouTube takes a cut in taxes. You can have a minoritarian group that's nationalistic. Geez. Well, this is the fundamental question. How do you define nationalism? If you define nationalism in a way that is compatible with minoritarianism, then that's one thing. But I think oftentimes the way that people define nationalism is inherently anti-minoritarian. That's my issue. If you want to change semantics and you want to redefine nationalism to be compatible with minoritarianism, then I don't really care. But I'm using semantics as they are popularly used and as they are historically and etymologically used. That is, nationalism is an ideology particular to the 19th and 20th centuries, which says the rulers and the ruled should have the same identity. That's the basic idea of nationalism. I don't believe in that. It's a majoritarian strategy. It's on the way out. I've talked about it at length. If you want to redefine nationalism to say, oh no, nationalism is just advocating for your identity, well, then that's pretty much what every group does across the planet. Even liberal white people do that, but they're not advocating on a racial basis, which basically nobody does. They advocate on a political, tribal, religious basis, where liberalism is a form of religion. Everyone advocates for themselves. The idea that there are true cuckolds in the world is just not really the case on a higher level, on a tribal level. Like, it's true that there are some people who are more passive and masochistic and those sort of personality traits, but on a group level, I don't believe that white liberals are cucks. I don't believe that white liberals hate themselves. I don't believe that white liberals are against themselves. I think white liberals are for themselves, and they're using a priestly strategy, and they view their main enemy as redneck white people and trashy white people. So they're using minorities to attack working class white people to elevate themselves in a high-low versus the middle strategy. So I don't think, if you're going to define nationalism as nationalism means when you advocate for yourself, and that's perfectly compatible with minoritarianism, then you're using nationalism in a way that's compatible with globalism. And then it kind of defeats the purpose of the nationalism versus globalism dichotomy. If you can solve that dichotomy, then those words sort of lose their meaning. So I'm using the word in the way that it's popularly used and the way that it's historically used. If you want to change the word so that you come on my team, team minoritarian, on a theoretical basis, now whether you join the Mormons, Jews, Amish, whoever you join, it's not up to me, that's up to you. But if we're working through the same theoretical lens, fine. But all you've done is you've changed the definition of nationalism to be completely different from the historical context and to be completely different from how people use it in the popular vernacular, which to me is a concession that I'm right. If all we're doing is debating over semantics, then that's not very interesting. The current abilities of gene manipulation are limited and rudimentary. We're still finding chemicals that have specificity for gene splicing capabilities. So I think that might be true, and so we should change that situation. The market is dominated by UnionPay, state-owned bank card network founded in 2002. Visa and MasterCard can only issue co-branded cards in partnership. You can't, Shania. Visa and MasterCard have to pay UnionPay a fee for transactions. They've been rallying the World Trade Organization to get full market access in China for a long time now. China refuses to give it. I got to scroll back up here. Non-Euclidean space. Patriots. The Chinese consumer doesn't need foreign banks issuing foreign credit cards that haven't even embraced mobile payments fully. Working on our posture here. Drumpf kind of thick, though. I only talk sexually about Hillary as a candidate. Who's the most sexual candidate? We're not allowed to answer that question, but you can think about it in your mind for a moment. You can think about it, but you can't comment about it. You just do some ... some ellipses, just a thought bubble, thinking about which candidate is most sexual at this point. Of those who are still in the race, you can think about it, but I don't want anyone talking about it out loud. You can do your thought crime in your head, but I don't want to see that kind of disrespect in the comments. That's not allowed. You can dream. You can dream about it. Imagine if we closed the U.S. market to Chinese food. President sexually predates on the public. Stay in your lane. The chat is constituted entirely of past U.S. presidents. Doubt the arrival of a new Western religiosity. Well, that not according to Spangler, unless you're going to count transhumanism. Going forward, it's the big slump: mass suicide, sterility, the masses being drugged, sedentary, surveilled. What I'm seeing is a hollowing out of the middle class. So yeah, the middle classes are going to drift further and further from religiosity, but the lower class and the upper class are going to become more intensely religious. And I would say even sterility and mass suicide are part of a mass cult. I mean, you can call that all part of liberalism, and I think liberalism is a religion. It's just sort of a not very good religion. Yeah, Firec. What is it? Firec would stand for consumer. Yeah, I think Firec, the Firec economy. Can we reverse some of those things, though? Can we make it the... What would be a better word? We got to make the acronym really spicy. Like, fire is spicy. You just want to dig your teeth into some fire. You just want to load up some salsa on there. But, I don't know about the other ones. While the elites do their mad dance with teach development and Elysium tech development, the rising of chaos and the loss of meaning will lead to people searching for spiritual meaning. Trump makes the worst case for nationalism. Kenneth will convert once Trump is out of office. Bald Kenneth would be legendary. Coronavirus hit Tesla stocks. Can't get a date thanks to Corona Chan. I'm sorry to hear that. Pandemics are going to save the world. We need to invade China, like MacArthur said. I don't know if that's feasible. There are alternative forms of warfare, though, that could work. Work on the Tesla factory in Europe got halted. Tesla owners be like technological progress in me running this car on batteries. This will take up half an hour. Any chance we can get a Discord link? Yeah, let's check it out. Let's see if I can manage one of those for you. I get a lot of people joining the Discord who can't figure out how to actually get allowed in the Discord. And then they message me on Twitter and they're like, yo, can you let me in the Discord? And I'm like, there's instructions. If you can't read and follow the instructions in the Discord for how to be a part of the Discord, then maybe you don't get to stay in the Discord. But that's the link. Russia, Kitai have a closer relationship than people think. You look miserable up close. Do I look miserable? I don't think I look miserable. But thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Coolmug. That's a space station. Tiny words, enormous face, no contest. Kenneth already gonna just eat the lot. Tasty. Gopniks rely on China for existence. Brexit won't bring back the British Empire. He looks like an AI companion. Well, that's technically true. We're not joining the EU. It's over. The EU is a continental entity. We don't want you. Moldbug doesn't like the term globalism. There is a recent interview with him that just got published. What is his alternative? We were never meant to join. Churchill wanted it for thee, not for we. De Gaulle tried to keep us out. Blexit is next. Inherent rivalry between China and the West. Historically, the West sought access to China, not rivalry. Today, the U.S. is against China because it threatens unipolar order. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think China and the West necessarily have to be enemies. I think they can be friends. I think they can cooperate and trade and everything, but you know, there's different things going on here. There's like the short-term conflict, long-term conflict. It depends on what China wants to do. If China wants to integrate with the West, then we can be friends. But if China doesn't want to integrate, then we're going to have a problem. Because we are imperialists in the West and we demand integration. Doolittle doesn't understand religion. Should I keep posting long comments? Counter signal the points I disagree with. If they simulate interesting debate. If you repeat the points you made last year and the year before, I'm going to make the same arguments. That's fine. You don't have to watch the video, and I don't have to read the comment. Awesome. I don't think I disagree with you on much. I disagree with you on Brexit, not much else. I've implicitly and explicitly adopted a minoritarian attitude to our situation. Yeah, so that's what it is. Hebrew Israelites are the best minoritarian group. Let's have a majoritarian strategy called Americanism. Amazing. Amazing how people can listen to me talk and still not get it. Pragmatic minoritarianism in the head, but can you change what is in your heart? I think you can. No minoritarian GF. You should respond to my lengthiest most recent comment about my minoritarian strategy on your video called Is Nationalism on the Rise? Let's find out. Is nationalism on the rise? Let's see if my video comes up. Let's see if I put it in quotes if my video is going to go. Oh, there it is. Let's see what Mr. Coolmug has to say on this most recent video. All right, so we're going to... Oh, here we go. There's a degree to which I agree with you that pure national states are a recent thing and not even necessarily stable, but nations, ethnic groups themselves have existed for centuries in spite of the many empires and states that have come and gone. So the real question is, how do we go forward? We go forward by having an acute sense of the times and circumstances in which we live. While I agree we're not going to have a nation state for every single little ethnic group, I still think that people value decentralized anti-global political power. I don't really care what people value. I mean, people can value something all they want. Doesn't mean that anything's going to happen. It's about people with power. What do people with power value? You say, the people value this, therefore what? Therefore nothing. I'm sure the people value not killing themselves. People are still killing themselves. I still believe we can have large states that cooperate internationally instead of a EU model of total inter-ethnic, interracial amalgamation. I don't think that's what the EU is. I don't think the EU is total inter-ethnic, total interracial amalgamation. I think the EU is a multinational organization. Germany, France, these are independent countries with different agendas, and there is a certain separation of ethnicities and there's a certain separation of races within the EU. Now, there is a certain level of mixing, but it's not total mixing. Too much too soon. Well, that's a question of pragmatism. That's an engineering question. If it's too much too soon, that's a quantitative question, not a qualitative question. This leads me to my own proposition for the maintenance of Occidental culture and people through the spread of English as the global second language. Until you bring down cultural and religious and linguistic barriers through the spread of Western culture, through the spread of English abroad, and through secularism, you cannot have a substantial and stable continental or global political union. And actually, I think that promoting this is a good minoritarian strategy, or at least tactic. It escapes nationalism, promotes internationalism, and also implies minoritarian elitism. Think about all the Europeans who speak English. English is the most spoken language on the internet. Scandinavians are taught English from childhood. This is becoming more and more the case around the world. If any language is going to become the second or future global language, I would rather it be English. I think even nationalists would prefer English rather than Chinese or Arabic or Esperanto. So that's literally just like Winston Churchill. That's literally just Anglo-Norman. That's literally just American imperialism. Like, okay, that's your point, and it is what it is. I don't really have too much to like agree or disagree because you're just identifying with Anglo empiricism or imperialism, I should say. I'm mixing those two words together. But yeah, I mean, have fun with that. You're taking a British-centric view, and I'm taking a little bit of a different view. So that's where our difference of perspective lies. But I don't really have too much. I don't have like an emotional, like all of what you said is wrong, or like, yeah, I'm totally on board with that, because I think a lot of what you're saying is correct objectively in terms of what will happen. Now, in terms of justifying why should we be in favor or against that, that's a little bit more complicated. And it is very controversial. It is very anti-nationalistic in a certain sense. I think there's a kind of a contradiction between your first paragraph and your second and third paragraphs. I think your second and third paragraphs, you're advocating for internationalism. In your first paragraph, you seem to be advocating for nationalism. So it doesn't seem all completely coherent to me, but it doesn't really matter. It is what it is. I'm not here to like scrutinize everybody's comments. I appreciate the comments. I don't respond to all of them, but I appreciate most of them. Contributing to the conversation. You know, maybe I just don't get it. Maybe it's a brilliant comment and I just don't understand. Never used Discord before. Give me a break. Paige, yeah, it's okay. I'll give you a break. Pedro de Alvarado, Hernan Cortez buddy, was planning to invade China. Interesting. Let's have a once-a-week live review of some thinker like you did with Locke, Machiavelli, Dante, Spinoza, Derrida, whoever you want. What does that mean? You want me to like read a bunch of books and do a book report for you? You know, okay. All right. Well, I think I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And we'll see. If I had infinite time, unfortunately, my time is very erratic. My time might be coming to a close. This might be another abandoned project here pretty soon. Chinese civilization is imperial. That's where the West and the Far East share something. Imperialism isn't synonymous with expansionism. He already talked about Bloomberg. Yeah, we talked a little bit about Bloomberg. I'm sure more developments will happen with Bloomberg, so we're not done forever with Bloomberg, but just for this video, I think we've exhausted our Bloomberg section. The masculine to rule has the feminine counterpart to nourish. The ethically Christian Western Empire's transition to the liberal one, which means a transition from masculine to feminism. Let's have a once-a-week review of Drain Gang members like Echo or Blady. I have no clue who are you talking about. Am I going to regret looking up Drain Gang members? I have if this is what I think it is, then you're getting banned. Level up with Drain Gang's legendary member. Is this a band? Artistic collective. Young Lean. Blady and Echo. Okay. It wasn't as bad as I thought it could have been. Educating Afghan women in postmodern art, telling Eskimos to be vegan. What we repeat, we learn by rote instead of interrogating. He wants Ken to replace Conquer the Book Club. There can only be one Q. True. I think we're done with the video, and no one has joined the Discord mysteriously. We still have 38. I think someone may have popped in and then popped out, but it says we still have 38. Oh no, there it goes. Darcy blows. It's all gone now. Let's see who is posted to respect. Okay, here's the thing, Cromwell. I will give you a second chance. But if you swear at people, and you insult people, and you break the rules, you're going to be out of here. Again. And that will be your second strike. And then you're getting toward your third strike, which is a permanent ban. But we'll see. We'll see about that. I am John Masters, fan of Mr. Cool Mug and a respecter of rules. Oh, welcome to the Discord, John. I'm here. Mr. Cool Mug would like to be a rule respecter. I thought he was already in here. I guess he left. I guess he popped in and then he left. Okay, so we've got some new rule respecters. The point of the Discord, as a reminder, is not to have conversations and have a community and have online internet friends. It's not open discussion. It's not any of that. It's not a normal Discord. I don't want to promote any of that. That's not what it's about. The Discord is about providing content for my channel. So you're making suggestions for what I should do, or you're coming on to debate me, or come on to have a discussion or a collaboration or something like that. So that's what it's about. So if you don't follow the rules, if you don't follow the status quo, then you get banned. The YouTube rule, I mean, basically all YouTube rules apply. So if you violate any of the YouTube rules on there, you're gone. We don't really have much mercy. It is what it is. If you plan on disappearing, give me a ring-a-ding after the revolution is finished. Okay. That's it. That's all she wrote. Thanks for popping in. Feels like a really long stream, even though this hasn't been our longest one, I think. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. We'll see. I think it's the intro. And you know what? Speaking of the intro, it's also a good outro. I mean, what do you guys... Is that bad? Is it bad that I want to reuse the intro as the outro? If I can even figure out how to do that, because... Let's see. It's supposed to be... Oh boy. If I go here, and then I go into... Yeah, you can still hear me. I'm gonna get a hold of this at some point. It's in documents. There it is. Now, if I open this up, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna minus that, and then I'm gonna bring in the window capture. But before I bring in the window capture, I'm gonna make it real small. Ah, yes. I know how to do this. I prepared. I gotcha. Boom. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.